Hello, welcome to another edition of the Jamie Files. So I was driving along right now and I decided to pull over because I was connecting a few dots and I wanted to seize the epiphany. So I've been thinking about the flow state and how different people have described the flow state and have different methods of getting to the same place. So a flow state is a state of peak performance where you are performing something without any interference from your mind or the conscious mind or your inner critic. And the flow state has been described by a lot of different types of performers. Like some people call it being in the pocket, some people describe it as being in the zone. And a lot of creative people need to be in a flow state to solve problems and to get ideas. And a lot of people have a different method of getting there. But I've been noticing that the flow state has taken on many different permutations throughout history by a lot of different people. So Aleister Crowley, the magician Aleister Crowley, I don't know if you're familiar with him, but he would do a lot of things that seem indulgent. Like he would indulge in a lot of sex and drugs and things like that. And when I was first learning about him and reading about him, I didn't really understand why he was doing all those things, but apparently it's to bring himself into a point, it's to bring himself to the point of exhaustion. Because when you bring yourself to the point of exhaustion, you enter into a altered state of consciousness. And in that altered state of consciousness, you experience flow. And in a flow state, ideas drop into your mind and you can conjure up a lot of ideas and creativity, and you will see the solution to things a lot of the time. Or if you're a performer that's performing some sort of art or presentation or job, it's the same thing. You become the performance. So there's no separation between you and the act of what you're doing. And you become one with the music or the dance or the speech. And you're not consciously trying to control all of these things that are going on. It's just happening and you are a part of it. So that's a flow state. And a lot of people, like I mentioned, Aleister Crowley, people that need to perform, people that want to be creative, they thrive on flow states. And so for my own life, trying to recreate a flow state or trying to get into a flow state is one of my main goals in life. And it's one of the only ways in which you can experience the magic and mystery of what it is to be a creator in a flow state. So you have to get out of your own way and allow your performance to come through whatever it is that you're performing, even if it's just to solve a problem or just to get ideas. So I mentioned that Aleister Crowley would bring himself to the point of physical exhaustion. Other people have practiced things like meditation. I am not a very good meditator because I don't like to sit still, but I do bring myself to the point of physical exhaustion through exercise. And I noticed that after I've exercised to the point of exhaustion and then I go and try to perform something, I will enter into a flow state just from being exhausted. Not exhausted to the point where I need to fall asleep, but just to the point where, for me, I'm actually exhausting my inner voice, my mental chatter through exercise. And it turns down the volume of my inner voice. And see, this is what's weird that I've what I meant by connecting the dots and what I was saying at the very beginning is this. It's weird because you would think that the more conscious you are of what you're doing, the better you'd perform. It's actually the opposite. And there's a lot of studies. And the studies show that when you turn off more parts of your brain, that's when you actually are cognitively enhanced. So people say things like, we only use 10% of our brain, and we're not using the full capacity of our brain, which is weird, because to do better, you actually need to use less. So you don't want to use 100% of your brain, actually. You want to use less of it. If you want to do a better job, you want to actually use less of your brain. So I thought that was really interesting, and so I connected the dots between Aleister Crowley bringing himself to the point of physical exhaustion in order to enter into a flow state, and myself using exercise to get into a flow state. And but that's also similar to a lot of Buddhist practices, where they talk about having no mind and shutting off your mind. Some people call it mindfulness. And it's just funny, because I remember going back many years and I would hear catchphrases like mindfulness or no mind. And nowadays I hear it being called the flow state. And yeah, it just kind of struck a chord while I was driving, that the fact that, oh wow, these are all the same thing. They're all talking about the same thing. But I like flow state because it demystifies what a flow state is. It's really easy to understand. So flow states, it's the most powerful state of mind that you could be in.